Ever fancied yourself as a top-notch fire chief, sending out your crew to quell the inferno and save lives? Well, Emergency gives you that chance, my pedigree chums. But hold on to your knickers, because this game's execution is about as smooth as a dodgy pint down the local pub. Now, I ain't one to mince my words, and I'll tell you straight, you'll be wishing the fire in Emergency could jump out your screen and swallow you up whole after spending 10 minutes with it. So make yourself comfortable, grab a cuppa, and let Reggie give you the lowdown on this bloody nonsense game. Emergency comes in swinging with that free-to-play tag, and it's enough to give anyone a dose of scepticism. Pay-to-win mechanics, you bet your boots they're lurking here. But let me play devil's advocate for a tick. Yes, they're here, but at least you ain't got to toss your hard-earned cash straight away to dive in. Now, I've got a theory. If they just slapped a reasonable price tag on it, let's call it 25 quid or so, they might actually have ended up with more dosh. And this game's from the Emergency franchise, where back in the day, that's exactly how things rolled. What's clear as day then is that this franchise has done a deal with the devil, selling its soul to the corporate beast, a mere shell of its former self, all for the sake of milking every last penny. But let's get down to the business, shall we? How the blazes does this thing actually play? Playing Emergency is like being stuck in a never-ending snooze fest filled with mind-numbing tasks and some absurd events that can't decide if it wants to be a simulator or an arcade game. It's a right puzzle to figure out where to even start, but Reggie ain't one to shy away from a challenge. Picture this. You're dropped smack bang in the middle of a scenario. There's a car crash, a building's gone up in flames, you name it. Finish one of these dramas and before you can say Bob's your uncle, another one pops up in the same bloody city. Now, potentially you could have 2 or 3 crises on your hands at once, but guess what? You've got a limited number of slots for your emergency vehicles, and here's the kicker. No one's got a bloody clue why. Maybe the city's skint because folks forgot to cough up their property tax, and now they can only afford to keep 5 motors running at any given time. You won't believe the levels of daftness we're going to be diving into here, lads. Get this, there's a bomb strapped to an ATM. So, who do they send in to save the day? Why, it's your engineer, of course, who apparently moonlights as a bomb disposal expert in the day. And get this, in the background, there's a full-blown shootout going on between armed robbers and a SWAT team. And would you Adam and Eve it, the bomb blows up, but somehow the engineer's still alive and kicking once a paramedic shows up. But don't think it's all rainbows and roses, because setting up a crime scene or cordoning off the area ain't part of the plan here. Right behind the bank, there's another bomb just waiting to go off with another set of armed villains causing havoc. I kid you not, the bloke who just got blown up is back on his feet like nothing happened, and he's the first one on the bloody scene before even the police. The robbers then decide to give your engineer a proper good hiding and knock him out cold. So, what's the master plan? Why, of course, you send in one police car, because apparently you can only park vehicles in certain spots, which means only one copper can rock up in this particular scenario. And would you Adam and Eve it again, they start scrapping like a bunch of rowdy drunks while your engineer is chilling there lying on the ground after surviving a bomb blast and had a good old beating waiting for his ambulance. And wait, it gets better. When you finally patch him up for round 2, you send him off to defuse the bloody bomb that's been ticking away this whole time. Honestly, this engineer is like Rambo, and the cherry on top, after you've sorted out the whole mess, everyone just packs up and goes home, leaving the defused bomb on the street for the kids to have a game of footy with. I tell ya, all these scenarios are as realistic as a unicorn riding a skateboard, a proper insult to your brain cells they are. Oh, and for all you micromanagement lovers out there, this game is a bloody dream come true. As you stumble upon a raging building fire, you're all, right lads, let's get these poor buggers out of here. Now, in a sensible world, I'd pick my ladder truck, point it at the building, and bam, problem solved. But hold on to your knickers, because in Emergency, you're going to be spoon-feeding these numbskulls until kingdom come. First things first, you need to find the right parking spot for your ladder. Got that? Great. Now time to extend the bloody thing. But here's the kicker. Sometimes you're using the left mouse button and other times it's the right one. Like selecting your unit is a left click, but parking them up, you guessed it, right click. I swear to you, I've got no bleeding clue why they designed the game this way, other than to give you a brain hemorrhage for extra immersion. Anyway, back to our ladder rescue saga. The blokes driving this contraption apparently ain't experts in ladder rescue. So what do? You order another fire truck, this time with actual firemen inside who know how to climb a ladder. Once the poor victims are back on the ground, the firemen stand there gawking at them like they're museum exhibits. So you've got to send these firemen packing because, as we established earlier, you've got a grand total of 5 slots for your vehicles. Now you can summon a doctor because paramedics in this game are as dim as a 5-watt light bulb but can only deal with minor scrapes to the knee. If your paramedic arrives first, it'll just watch someone bleed out in the street, no medical aid in sight. Once the doc does his thing, you can finally send him back to base, so a free slot appears at the bottom for the paramedic to haul the patient away. This whole chaotic dance happens in every scenario, with your precious 5 slots turning into a war zone. And if you don't follow the steps in the right bloody order, you'll have folks standing around twiddling their thumbs while little Johnny turns into Crispy Critter. As for challenges in this game, they're about as exciting as a soggy chip. The game throws at you what it calls a minor fire outbreak in a tower block, but it's more like a scene straight out of Dante's Bloody Inferno, with a 3-story building looking like it's auditioning for the next World Barbecue Championship. And generally it's either a full-on shootout, a car pile-up, or a plane crash. This city's got more hazards than Gotham City. Now as you make your way through this mess, more scenarios will pop up. You'll get to pick reward cards, like being able to withstand flames better and all that, but sooner or later you'll bump into those microtransactions, and that's where Reggie took the high road. But more on that in my conclusion. Now let's talk about the visuals or lack thereof. Now don't get me wrong, it ain't a total train wreck, but for a game running on the Unreal Engine, it's like they used a bloke with shaky hands to draw it. I mean, Reggie tried his best, for example, to crank it up to 4K, but this game's an unruly kid. It just won't behave no matter how much you try. So even though the video you're watching is rendered in 4K, don't be fooled, it's not. As for the options to spruce up the graphics, well, there ain't much to talk about. Plus, there's the odd micro stuttering problem early on, which ain't great even on my monster of a rig. The animations are lacking, think mobile game quality, and that's what you're in for. The lighting, boring as a rainy day in London, with the only bit of excitement coming from the dynamic blue lights flashing about. But otherwise, it's all baked in. The models, low res, and the variety in stuff, well, let's just say there's more variety in US election candidates than this. The city is like a ghost town, but occasionally you'll spot cars just driving around in circles like they're on a bloody merry-go-round. There are some decent bits though. The scenes do have that chaotic feel to them, with fires dancing up walls and smoke hugging onto cars and such. So artistically it's passable, but for a game with the Unreal Engine firepower, this is like bringing a water pistol to a flamethrower fight. Let's talk about the noise this game's making. You've got the sound effects playing on loop like they've been recorded from a Nokia 3210. Now, I'll give him credit for the voice acting because the narrator's doing a decent job here. But get this, sometimes he's yammering away right on top of himself when you've just finished a task. Sirens, they're about as feeble as a tea cosy, and those fires, the ones that should be roaring like a dragon's breath, nah, they're more like someone toasting marshmallows on a campfire. Everything here is as monotonous as a one-man band playing the spoons. But here's the kicker, there's this fake background music, like a bit of rock or pop, that just won't stop, as if they're trying to copy the legendary Red Alert music, but end up sounding like a garage band playing in the next street over. You might be wondering why I'm even bothering with this review if I've got no love for it whatsoever. Well, the simple truth is, I reckon there's a proper audience out there for a smashing RTS game based around the emergency services. And see, this channel, it's all about bringing those other games to the forefront. There's a whole bloody world of potential in that concept, but it's a bit of a bummer to see a franchise like Emergency take a nosedive into the dreaded land of free-to-play. Now let me lay it out for you, my Padawans. I spend around 60 quid a week. That's my own hard-earned cash, so I can get my mitts on the latest and greatest games and then review them for you lovely folks. But when those pesky microtransactions started rearing their ugly heads in Emergency, I had a proper moral tug of war going on. I felt a tad guilty, you know, throwing more cash at it just to rip it to shreds in the review, especially when there's real-life firefighters out there busting their guts out doing God's work. So what did I do? I took that 60 quid this week and I chucked it towards the Maui relief effort in Hawaii on behalf of the Cockney Gamer Gang. If you fancy joining in on the do-goodery, there's a link down below. Funny thing is then, even for a crap game like Emergency, a little bit of good can still shine through. Cheers my darlings, until next time, Reggie out.